Thank you, Manon. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I'm the Localization Services Manager at Subway. My name is Carrie Fisher, and I'm also the 2023 President of Women in Localization. Smartling, I know we've thanked you a million times for being our sponsor, but allow me to do that again before I introduce Andrea and Valerie. Thank you. Andrea Perdue is team lead of language services at Smartling. She has been working in localization since 2009 and began her career as a French to English translator before moving into the project management side. She's now a team lead for Smartling Language Services. Welcome, Andrea.
Thanks, Carrie.
Valerie Diance is the Senior Director of Language Services at Smartling. Valerie started her 25-year career in localization as a translator as well. Valerie joined Smartling in 2014 and first led service delivery operations and is now Senior Director of Language Services and focuses on vendor management and quality management. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here too.
Let's dive right in. We're here today to really dive into something that challenges all of us on the client side, and that is, what is the right mix of MT, MTPE, and human translation? Valerie, can you give us your thoughts?
Sure. I think this is definitely a topic that is on many people's minds today, and there's also, we can see that there's a certain apprehension about what all the changes that we're seeing are. And I thought it would be, a good time to remind everyone of everything we've seen already change so much in our profession. I certainly have seen quite a few of these inflection points, in my own career. When I first started, CAT tools were very, very new, and the notion of using a translation memory was quite foreign to many translators. Internet arrived, and when I think about our colleagues who used to work with dictionaries, it's really I really think how limiting this was for them. So the advance of all of these tools have drastically changed our profession over time, and in the arrival of machine translation is nothing new, but what we've seen recently is an acceleration of the usage of machine translation and certainly the quality of the output. So I think that's why it is so important today to be open-minded and think about what are the different solutions that are available to me as a content owner, thinking of localizing the content, and what are the skills I need to acquire if I am a translator to keep up with all these changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrea, how do you select the appropriate solution?
So I'm going to start with the same questions that I would ask for a standard human translation project. I want to make sure that we've established really clear goals together. What are the target dates? What are your launch goals? Word counts, locales, all of those typical questions. And then also the target audience and the budget, because obviously these new tools are going to help you stretch that budget, but you also want to make sure that you're kind of getting the right service level. So actually what I like to start with customers is I kind of go through the different service levels that are available at Smartling, and I'm sure at lots of other LSPs. So you can start with neural machine translation, which is obviously your fastest turnaround time and cheapest option. And it does take into account now do not translate terms, but those have to be exact matches. So you aren't going to get the same, you may not have the proper tone or the exact style that you're looking for, but it is a really fast and cheap option. So this is the best for low visibility content, like maybe user generated content, and really high volume. So it's a great way to just process a lot of word count quickly. And then A step up from that, we have machine translation with a human in the loop. So that's going to raise the bar on the quality quite a bit. In our testing, we've actually found that it's equivalent to a one-pass human translation. And the new offerings now do take into account your glossary, and you can use TM leveraging with them. So this is a really great option with also a very fast turnaround time, about 2/3 the time it takes versus human translation. You get really high cost savings, and you're still, because a human is in the loop, your style and tone of voice and brand are still represented. So that can be really great for a little bit higher visibility content. And then our next tier offering is professional human translation, and that is just giving you a little bit more assurance on quality because you have two humans working on the content. So it's kind of like your insurance policy, just really making sure that you're bumping up that quality assurance. And again, your linguists are going to be your brand champions and really get that like high quality style and tone of voice. And currently at Smartling, the mix is about 55% machine translation, 25% human translation, and 20% machine translation with that human in the loop doing the post edit.
That's pretty amazing. 55% MT.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. So we're really talking about doing more with less, which is something I feel we're all asked to do. It's not only on the client side, it's LSP too. And you can't mention this without talking about AI. So and there's been a ton of just significant progress around AI. What does this mean for Smartling?
Smartling has invested very, very heavily in AI, and we even launched we have a patent that was recently filed for language AI, and what this means is really leveraging AI at every step of the workflow. It's not just machine translation, it's every single step of the workflow that is enhanced by AI, which will allow for those improved cost savings, allow for the speed to increase, and very, very importantly, this is done without any compromise to quality. So we're very keen on preserving the quality of the translation output, and all our testing has shown that even the neural machine translation alone is very, very like scoring very high in when we look at MQM scores. So that is a very, very powerful offering because we're going to be able to advise our customers to find the best solution they need for what their objectives are and what their budget is.
And we're also really living in somewhat uncertain economic times. So how does this current macroeconomic environment influence strategy?
So a lot of customers are coming to us, needing to slash their budgets, essentially. So what we often do is we'll kind of mirror the verticals that they have on their side. So marketing content, whatever budget is going to that, really high visibility, impactful content. We're probably going to want to do the higher level service with, professional translation with 2 human translators and possibly even transcreation, specialty, creative translation. But then there's obviously they're putting their budget or maybe having smaller budgets to other types of content. So product maybe, or user generated, as I mentioned before. And so we can save them a lot of money by kind of dividing up, getting the right mix, as I mentioned before, and, bringing in a lot of MT to lower costs on anything that's for informational purposes or just a little bit lower visibility and really just needs to reach an audience without being that really top tier creative content.
Cool. So you mentioned, mirroring your clients' solutions, and do you find that the clients, partner with anyone on their side, maybe their CFO or someone in a financial position?
Yeah, absolutely. We often have to show them the data to kind of convince their CFO to try out some of these solutions. And so we can show them side by side the estimated human translation cost and then the estimated machine translation or machine translation with post-edit cost. And recently we've had enterprise customers save about $500,000 in a single year just from leveraging their MTPE. So when they see that data side by side, and then also the fact that it's going to be about 2/3 of the time, the turnaround time, that goes a long way in convincing the finance department.
Absolutely, and I believe it. I've seen a ton of savings with MT. Those numbers are real, for sure. So,
and then of course we also, sorry to interrupt, we also want to show them the quality data as well, so that they know that they're not taking a big risk by saving the money.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. So I'm going to invite the audience to participate here as well, but I'd really like to understand who has to partner with their CFO, for example, in talking about these strategies and the decisions. And while I ask you to participate, I'm going to give you a really quick story of where I used to work at Hyperion Solutions in Silicon Valley, who was bought by Oracle 2007. I ended up partnering with my CFO just to have him understand where all this money was going out the door and why. But it's really important, I think, for visibility and for understanding to show maybe a return on investment. And so he and I really worked closely together. And I'm wondering if anyone else on the client side has done this as well, just to every time the budget cycle comes up, he and I would partner and talk about how we did last year, how we're doing this year. And it was really helpful to get new strategies passed and money spent, because we could see all the savings happening. And by the way, our sales were, blowing up in Europe and other places. So I'm wondering if other clients have partnered with their CFOs or finance people in the past. I'd be really interested in hearing that. So if we could talk about the evolution of the translation supply chain, I think our industry is always evolving, and there have been a number of inflection points, Valerie, like you said, along the way. Yeah. And we have clearly reached another inflection point. So Valerie, what are your thoughts on where we are currently at in our industry?
I think there's a lot of angst, with translators today, because they're seeing their profession evolve so fast. They're probably worried about what will happen to their craft. I believe there's very much room for translators in the future, because some of the content, highly creative content and highly customized content will require the human touch always. So the translators still have a role to play, for sure. However, for certain types of content, for a large amount of the content, their role is going to be more that of validators, making sure that the machine is doing the right work, and they are going to be almost engineers helping the machine get better by offering when we're in the MTP workflow, for instance, in Smartling, every single time a translator is improving the translation, it goes back in the loop and the machine gets better and better. So as validators, they are helping the machine get better, but they are also changing their skills. They're no longer creating the translation, but they're making sure that, like the airplane that flies on autopilot, the pilot is still in the cockpit, checking that all the systems are working properly. Their presence is still very necessary, but their role has evolved, and they're not going to be, with their hands on the helm at all times. They're really, really, as Andrea was saying earlier, more like a human in the loop position, and making sure that everything goes right. And those are two types of skills that they're going to need to adopt. Continue doing highly creative work, but also embrace the role of validators. And I know it's a little bit scary. Unfortunately, I see the train has left the station, right? So we might as well get on board with it and learn the skills that need to be learned to be still very, very important for the translation business.
I agree. I love your comparisons. You're right. It's so true. Getting back to strategy. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, at Smartling, we're also developing a training program so that we can certify linguists as experts in MTPE. So we're kind of helping them to take ownership and feel involved. We're not, just leaving them behind, and also helping them to see that they can actually, while costs are dropping because of this technology, they can also do more with less and make the same amount of money that they're currently making by processing more content faster.
Awesome. Something I missed in the last subject that we were talking about of doing more for less. There's I think, LSPs can play a very big role in helping the clients, create strategy. And again, I'm going to ask folks in the audience to participate in the chat. But what do you need from your LSPs to achieve your business goals? And again, I welcome you to put your thoughts in the chat while I give my thoughts. And it's coming from me, right? And so those of us who are not tech savvy don't have time or the resources to investigate and really come up with our own strategies. We rely on our LSPs, I think, to help us come up with the strategy or solve issues for us. I can't stress enough, again, how much transparency plays a role in helping us on the client side, by showing us options, in some cases, really guiding us through scenarios with our own companies, within our own companies. So you really help us to succeed in having the right set of strategies. So I'd be interested in seeing more, in the chat, if we can. Oh, I can see we have a ton of questions so far, but is that okay if we save them to the end? Okay.
Yep.
We'll keep going. But anyway, I would love to hear from the audience on the strategy and what you need from your LSPs. But so really, go ahead.
So certainly at Smartling, we like to position ourselves as partners and really, offer the guidance and not leave. This shouldn't be transactional only, right? We are always looking out for our customers and offering better solutions or different solutions when they come to us with some of their issues.
I agree. Partnership is key, and transparency goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly what we see is that some of our customers need guidance. Some localization managers sometimes need to evangelize within their own company, and they sometimes struggle to find the terms that will really echo with their leadership team. So we try to arm them with all of those all of this information so that they can go back and do more again with less.
Right. Super helpful. Yeah. And Julia says here, I struggle communicating ROI. So ideas on how to gather ROI information from my LSP would be helpful. So we can take that at the end too. Thank you. So Andrea, preparing a change in mindset for everyone involved. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, at Smartling, we really, one of our core values is taking care of our people. So that includes our customers and our, team members, and also the freelancers and linguists and vendors that we work with. So first of all, we just engage with them with empathy and understand that this is happening really fast. And it's a big change, and we just, we want to be there for them and help them, as I said, kind of take ownership and feel like they still have a place in this industry on the linguist side. And then in terms of customers, we also kind of want to be their trusted advisor and hold their hands through this as well, and make sure they really understand what they're getting. So explaining very thoroughly each service level, and also, not selling MT when it's not the right solution, making sure that we're that they can trust that we're providing them with the correct solution for the specific type of content they're working with.
Sure. So Valerie, how can companies take everything that we discussed today and scale to meet their growth goals?
So really looking at what are your objectives, what are you trying to achieve, and have a clear understanding of the different types of content they're trying to localize, so that they can match the strategy to the type of content that they have, and trust also that the quality is going to be appropriate for those different types of content. And I also, have a position where, even as a linguist, I sometimes understand that the perfect translation does not need to be achieved for every type of objective. So it is really important to understand that, because then you are sometimes scaling back on some of the efforts that are deployed for certain types of content. And that's where you understand that MTPE, which is almost on par with the two human translators in the workflow, will achieve the same result for that specific type of content. It is, it might be a little bit controversial, but it is okay for some type of content to not have this super compelling style, and like be a little bit more mechanical sounding, as long as the objective is achieved.
That's right.
So, like taking a few steps back and understanding that will also help decide what solution you're going to be choosing.
That makes perfect sense. Knowledge-based articles come to mind. They don't have to be beautiful and perfect. They just need to help the person get unstuck, right?
They need to be clear, accurate.
Yeah.
So
mechanical works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes you're translating something that's just going to be filed in a drawer and nobody's ever going to look at it, and it's just for regulatory purposes or something.
True.
And then sometimes it's your tagline and it's super important to your brand. So just understanding that spectrum.
Makes sense. Ladies, thank you so much. I wanted to leave time for some Q&A, and I know we got a ton of questions in the chat, and I can see some in the Q&A section. You know what? Before Manon, before I ask you to help, I would love to hear your answer, and I'm from Julia, and it's the question I talked about previously is I struggle communicating ROI. What are some ideas on how to gather ROI information from my LSP that would be helpful? do you have thoughts on that?
I would definitely show them the difference in cost estimates. That's an immediate, easy thing to share. And then I guess another thing is that if you just want to get something translated quickly, you can always add more, like another layer of quality to it later. So you can always just get something out there and see if that solution is appropriate. And then maybe it's not, and you want to bring in, a specialty linguist or add in just a human validator to kind of go through it. So there's a lot of playing around you can do to kind of see how things are working as well.
That makes sense.
And another way would be to maybe partner with your marketing colleagues, and they can show you the differences in traffic on a website that was previously not translated and is now fully localized. That is one way to measure ROI as well.
That's great. Yeah, when I was at Hyperion Solutions, like I mentioned before, ROI was just kind of this theory. And, again, I partnered with the CFO to just, what is the correct ROI? And we just kind of put a stake in the ground of 10 times the return on investment. And that seems to make sense. So I think the first part is figuring out what your ROI is, and then, partner with your LSP to come up with different solutions and how to make that ROI go up. That's great answers. Thank you. So Manon, do you want to take it from here, or do you want me to keep looking at chat?
I mean, I found a couple already. I'm happy to get the Q&A session started. This first question is in regards to MT and the increasing usage of AI. How do you respond to confidentiality concerns?
Well, within Smartling, we use machine translation, but the content stays within our platform. So we do have security in place. We do have content is completely isolated from one account to another, so it remains confidential. It doesn't go back to the original, engine.
Yeah.
Perfect. Next question is in regards to localizing or translating UI strings using MT or AI. How do you measure the quality, or how do you control the quality if you're not able to provide context for those UI strings?
The lack of context is difficult for a machine to handle. So in that case, we'd probably want to train the engine first, so that you are getting the TM leveraging and the content type for your particular account. So we're going to feed it with your content first, and then it's going to reproduce things that make sense and are relevant to your content.
And when you first start, we're probably going to advise that you do opt for MTPE, so that there is one linguist at least in the loop to make sure that the translations are appropriate for your UI. But context, I think, is essential for any solution that you're going to adopt. And it's going to be a problem for any, even if you were to invest in human translation without context, a lot of things can go wrong. So I would say investing in context regardless is essential.
We have a question about high quality MTPE is not significantly less expensive than human translation. What other benefits are you seeing with this process that we could focus on when promoting this to our stakeholders?
It actually is about half the cost over time, because now it can leverage TM. And so as you build up your TM from MTPE, you are getting those cost savings. So once you've translated quite a bit of content, you're getting it's going to be about 50% of the cost. And then also it's about 2/3 faster. So even though upfront you might not see an immediate big difference in cost, over time you really will.
This next question is about language pairs in the usage of MT. In the past, there was different levels of confidence of MT output in different language pairs. Is this still the case? And is this something to take into account when considering to use MT?
I would say it is, yeah.
There are some less common languages that are not really appropriate for MT because the engines are not very robust.
So adding a translator to the workflow is definitely going to help, especially with our technology, because as they are reviewing the MT and correcting the translations, those are committed to the translation memory, which is then leveraged over time again. So we're creating that loop.
Do you have any recommendations on how to ensure linguistic quality without involving a review from either an internal team, within the client side, or from another party?
I would say start with very, very strong foundations, and by that I mean making sure that you have a robust glossary, a robust style guide, context. Yes, please context. Give all the tools to the translators so that they are set up for success, and so that they also understand your preferences in terms of terminology, in terms of brand voice. Because if they have all that information to start, then your level of confidence can increase right away. We could be delivering exceptionally beautiful translations. If they do not follow your preferences, then we did not hit the mark, right? So really start there, like build strong foundation to set up the translators for success. And then, from there, you can evolve your program and introduce LQA, linguistic quality assurance, and measure the quality after it's been delivered, by sampling content and using a framework like MQM, for instance. This is what Smartling uses, and measuring samples of your content. That also is going to build confidence and reduce the reliance on internal stakeholders to look at the translations.
What does MQM stand for, just for those of us that don't know?
Multi-dimensional quality. I always stumble on the last one. Methodology, I believe, but yeah, it's DQF is one, MQM is one. Those are human driven quality evaluation frameworks, where basically you are cataloging errors, reviewing the translation, cataloging errors, and assigning a severity level to it, from neutral to critical severity. And then each of these has a weight, and that allows us to calculate a penalty, which allows us to calculate a quality score. And
thank you. That makes sense. Yeah.
In the industry, we see a passing threshold of 95% overall. So now some customers put the bar higher than this, or they have multiple pass threshold depending on their content. Again, the visibility and the importance of their content.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This next question is actually from the LSP side. In what other sectors besides translation for marketing do you think it'd be appropriate to use AI for translation? And kind of following up on that, do any LSPs use Smartling, and how do they manage using, their own TM with your TM and such?
Could you repeat the the beginning of the question?
Yeah.
Yes, if you'd recommend different sectors that would use AI machine translation besides kind of the obvious marketing maybe, would you recommend for medical or legal translation requests or other sectors?
Yeah, basically legal or medical are actually kind of more appropriate for AI because they don't require that level of style that would come from a creative translation. And then I actually, for marketing, tend toward more human translation and creative translation because it does require that human touch and more of an intentional style. But yeah, legal and medical are great for AI.
Or even technical.
Mm-hmm.
Any content that is, I would say, more dry, that can be very literal and
so kind of following up on that, do you have any LSPs who use your machine translation or AI services? And how do you work together with them at Smartling?
So customers can leverage our neural MT, and after, if they're working with other LSPs than Smartling Language Services, they might add review steps to their workflows, but the specific Smartling Language Services technology is really reserved for our services.
I'm just trying to read all the questions to see which ones we have answered.
Well, there was a follow-up from Luce about what do you feel about software UI? Would that be a good candidate for AI MT?
Yes, but I would definitely include a human in the loop who is familiar with the content and has that context that we were talking about.
I'm not sure if we've answered this already, Andrea. I know you mentioned a few percentage breakdown in the content breakdown of AI, but how do you decide the strategy to use 55% AI, or is this what you see from your customers?
That's what we're currently seeing, but keep in mind that Smartling works with a wide variety of customers and different verticals. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And the strategy is really going to come from having an extensive conversation about what's important to the customer and what their highest visibility content is and what their goal is, what target audience they're trying to reach. So it's really again, it's just not a one size fits all. It really requires some thought.
And someone else had asked that question earlier. I just found it. Sorry, Yona. She asked it as well. We did have if you can, could you provide more information on the program for training or accrediting machine translation specialists? You mentioned you had an internal program that does that.
It's just starting, so it's we haven't really fully established it yet. It's something we're working on.
Okay.
And then this question is more, I guess, maybe future looking, but does Smartling have a plan to add AI platforms like ChatGPT to its services?
Yeah, we actually just released Smartling Translate, which is, I think, available for a 90-day trial to our customers. And it's a ChatGPT enabled machine translation platform.
I almost joked. ChatGPT, what's that? Right. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I think we've answered. I know there's some questions left, but I think we've answered most of them through the other questions. So I'm just gonna Oh, this other one. What is the difference between your own MT service?
So without we're really I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the
Would you
the
call
word.
yourself a one-stop shop for anything? You've
Oh,
got
yes.
is that what the kind of the question
Definitely,
is, Manon, or-
definitely.
Yeah.
We are a TMS, and we also offer language services, and all of that is powered by our language AI technology. So at every single step, you're going to have that technology enabling our services, and Smartling language services is definitely benefiting from every piece of technology that Smartling has developed. So
well, as well as the people. You have, I think, very smart people. I'm not bragging, Olga Barabavaya, you know, you've got a good one there.
oh yes, yes, absolutely.
Was that it for the questions? You know, that you can see.
I don't want to put like too much, emphasis on putting you on the spot with all these questions, and kind of want to make sure it's still connected to the topic. But yeah, I think we can, unless anyone has very specific questions on how to optimize your translation mix, I think we can call it.
I'm seeing one question at the end that I think we can briefly answer. The Drupal connector is available in for Smartling. So if you're working with the TMS with Smartling, that connector is available, and that means that all the language AI is available for whoever has a need for that connector.
Well, thank you everyone for the wonderful questions, and for this engaging conversation. Thank you, Valerie, Andrea, Carrie, for this insightful presentation. I hope everyone had as much of a good time as I did. And like mentioned, this webinar recording will be available in a couple days, once we get the recording up and live on our member portal and our YouTube channel. So for those of you who weren't able to catch the beginning or the end, this will be your chance too. I don't know, Carrie, if you have any closing remarks.
Ladies, I just want to thank you very much for the informative session, not only about MT and PE, MTPE and all that good stuff, but your insights, on strategy and how the client side can move forward in the confusing times that we have right now. Appreciate your insights, and thank you again for being a sponsor. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.